Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 14 of our Satellcast here at Satellite Gaming. We have a very special show for you tonight, like I have promised over and over for the past several weeks. We're doing our Game of the Year show, and a little different way than I had previously expressed, mainly because I've got a shorter crew today. With me I have Jay.
Hello.
And I have Matthew.
Hi there, everyone.
And what we're going to be doing is we have a pool of games that we kind of think stood out this year, and before any of you realize that your maybe respective game isn't mentioned, the very first thing, my first disclaimer that I want to throw in there is a lot of the games that we would like to talk about, that I would even like to talk about, I personally haven't played, and I can't give something Game of the Year if I haven't played it. It's just, it doesn't make sense, and so a lot of what we talk about either we have played or have dealt with in some way, shape, or form. So that's where we're kind of leaning towards. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the pool of games here. And let's see. At first, and this is in no particular order. This is just how we're going to talk about them. And then we're going to choose which one of these is our Game of the Year. And by all means, you can make an argument for a candidate that's not in here. And you're going to notice one that was probably, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, snubbed. But anyway, the Walking Dead arcade game series, that whole 5-episode arc, so good. We think that's a candidate. As usual, Mass Effect 3, if you haven't heard about it by now, you probably don't care, but amazing game. Probably the biggest shooter, sorry Call of Duty, out, Halo 4. Followed by, I don't know if I would qualify this as a big shooter as much as I would an MMO FPS, Borderlands 2. And then finally, rounding it out, we have Assassin's Creed 3, followed by XCOM Enemy Unknown and Diablo 3, which was actually a late ad, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's all talk about The Walking Dead. Who doesn't like The Walking Dead? TV show is great. The video game was absolutely amazing. Jay, I know you're a big Walking Dead guy. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk. What did you think was good about The Walking Dead, man?
Well, first, the skepticism that surrounded it for me was that I noticed it was like cell shaded, and I am definitely not a huge fan of that, which is weird because I love Borderlands to death. But I saw that and I kind of rolled with it. When I found out it wasn't following the main cast, I was still kind of nervous. I didn't know what kind of story arc there would be, if any at all. And I don't want to do any spoilers here, but.
Right.
Basically,
I haven't finished it, so be careful.
It was like, for me, I love Fable, but Fable always, it's like a big adventure game around choices, whereas The Walking Dead kind of takes out some of the adventure, and it makes it more about choices. And you know, anyone who watches The Walking Dead is like, oh, well, if I was in that situation, I'd do this, or, oh, I'd do that. All right, well, now you have a chance to do it. And as soon as I played the first episode, I was hooked. I feel like all the episodes were the perfect length. They were released fairly consistently with each other. I mean, I played it. Once I started, though, I didn't want to stop. And at the end of it, the way it shows the statistics of how many people made the choices you made, and you know, all I would want to do is go back and see if I could change stuff, see if it would turn out differently, because that game was pure story, and it has been so long since I've played such a good story-driven adventure game like that. And I think that's definitely why it deserves to be nominated for this.
Absolutely. And Matt, what did you think?
Jay covered it. This game was based around choices, which is pretty unique for a game around these times, other than Mass Effect 3. I mean, such not clear cut, I would say, such defining choices is a better way to put it. Like, you have choices in most of your video games, but not as many of them has an impact as much as this game does on your character and your story. I think the fact that it was around The Walking Dead helped sell it a lot. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think this is, the name thing being used correctly. And the other thing I think helped bring this one out is how they did the episodic content and pricing each one individually. I think that was a good push for it as well. So, I mean, Game of the Year, and it's also being helped by the marketing. So, yeah, well done there.
And where I'm going with this is pretty much the same thing that Jay and Matt are saying. The Walking Dead is easily, one of the best shows on TV. Not that there's really a whole lot on, but Coming from that aspect, the choices, yes, was big, but it's how the choices were presented. I mean, you had like 10 seconds to make a choice. You were like, "Oh God, what do I do? What do I do?" And that that adrenaline rush, like and what the next game we're going to talk about with Mass Effect 3. You could take your time and make any decision you want and take your time. But in this, it was it's life or death at the snap of your fingers. You don't have time to sit around and maybe weigh all these options as strongly as you wish you had. And of course, you guys are in agreement, and you guys are right saying how you wanted to go back. You wanted to at least be like, oh, that's what everybody else did. Oh, I wonder what happens if I would have. And the episodes were just long enough. I think they were just long enough to be not too short, but not too long. I don't know how they caught that balance, but I never found myself being like, is this done yet? Or, man, this is so repetitive. I was always like, wow, I can't wait to get to the next part, and I can't wait to see what's around this corner. So I think the way it made you feel, the way it dragged you in, and the way it held on to you, there's rarely a story out there that can do that as well as The Walking Dead did, mainly because they personalized it. That's why I think the story alone and the choices, even if it wasn't in the Walking Dead universe, but I'm glad it was. I'm very glad it was. That's what makes that a Game of the Year candidate. So we're going to go ahead and jump on down to Mass Effect 3, probably the biggest, and I suppose only, pure RPG that came out. Well, I guess you can make the argument that The Walking Dead was probably the more pure RPG. But anyway, the Mass Effect series. What can you say about it, Matt? What are you thinking?
Same thing with The Walking Dead. The choices, the immersion you felt by bringing your character from 1 and 2, it really completes the trilogy. This game would have been hard to screw up. All they had to do pretty much was make continue their success from 1 and 2. The same graphics, same combat system. I mean, they make improvements on all of them and deliver a top-notch story, which a lot of people knock the ending. I think this game was good enough even with that, and to make it a Game of the Year candidate, yeah.
All right, and Jay, what are you thinking on the Mass Effect end?
I was never a fan of the Mass Effect series. I know of it. I know what it's about. I played Mass Effect 1 about 5 hours in, and I don't know, I couldn't keep my attention, but then, I mean, I've got a friend at work who hasn't played any of them and bought Mass Effect 3 and loves it, and, I mean, that guy's a rebel without a cause right there if he's jumping in the third installment of the series. But
yeah, I mean, you do get a lot of that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, as far as the choice system went, like I remember some of the decisions, and this is all speaking from 1. Is I really did. I liked it. I also liked how they had that transferring capability. Like you did have the same guy. I think as Matt just said. Your same person goes through all the games, and I think that's very innovative. A very innovative way of telling a story, rather than just starting over from scratch. And it's not really you playing; it's you playing through the eyes of a character. But they definitely try to keep it more in your court, I guess. But I don't know. As far as it goes for Game of the Year, for me, probably not.
Okay.
But that's spoken from someone who hasn't played it.
All right, and obviously, I mean, I am probably the biggest Mass Effect fan I know, and I'm not sure that's really saying a whole lot. But in all reality, I was hooked on 1. The decisions, the concept of it, and then being able to port everything I did over from 1 to make it matter in Mass Effect 2. The characters that were killed, and then how it jumped over to 3. How you were able to basically carry those extremely important decisions you made, and to see how they affected the galaxy. That is something unrivaled, and it's impossible. And I understand that you need to analyze Mass Effect 3 maybe as Mass Effect 3 and not the Mass Effect theory or series. But the issue with that is that Mass Effect 3's strongest attribute was that it had the backing of Mass Effect 1 and 2 and the ability to port over alone. Like Matt was saying, it was going to be pretty hard to mess it up, and a lot of people knocked the ending. I had beaten it before the regular ending came, or the new endings came out. I did not mind it. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was fine. But I was appreciative of the tons of hours that the third one even had, let alone the first 2. So with the choices, how expansive and massive this game was, it's just really hard to knock something as amazing as Mass Effect 3 with the scale it was on. That's why I think it's a Game of the Year candidate. It's just simply because of what it offers. And, you know, the gameplay's fun. Decision-making's fun. We all like our RPGs. We're good RPG guys, but that's what we're thinking. Anyway, we're moving on down to the resurgence of the Master Chief at the top of the food chain and the return of Halo. We have Halo 4 here. Now, Halo 4 has actually gotten, from hardcore fans, kind of a mixed feeling. I'm not sure what you guys are thinking there, but a little bit of a mixed reception. Although reviews are strong, as kind of anticipated. Personally, I thought Halo 4 was absolutely amazing. The story, nah, I don't know. I'm not feeling like this was the greatest story. I never felt like it was on par with a Mass Effect or even The Walking Dead, for that matter. And another game we'll talk about here later. But anyway, the multiplayer alone is going to save Halo 4 in a lot of people's minds, including mine. But Matt, go ahead. Here's your chance. Rant on Halo 4, my friend.
Well, I won't rant on it. I'll give it its praise why we chose it for Game of the Year. And, well, it was a very safe game. 343 did a very safe sequel. It would be hard for them to screw up Halo 4 to the point that nobody would buy it. And they brought back what everybody liked about it, and they put a little extra into it, which, while predictable, seemed to work for the game's favor. I mean, the multiplayer, I was skeptical at first. I still think it's imbalanced, but it's very fun to play. I don't see how this could be competitive, but it's fun. So, the campaign, it goes where everybody thought it would. It's a very solid game overall.
And Jay, what are you thinking?
I have to agree with Matt on how they played it safe. I feel like a lot of hardcore Halo fans are, you know, people who definitely pay attention to the game developers. And so when all of us see game developers handing off, you know, their throne to a Microsoft-owned studio, like it's gonna just all their sole purpose is to pump out Halos. It gets kind of like, is this gonna be a cash cow? Is it gonna be, you know, just complete sellout? And I wasn't surprised by Halo 4, but I wasn't gonna put the controller down. I definitely admire 343 for stepping up and doing all of it. I love the idea of the ongoing Spartan ops. I think that's brilliant, and I feel like that's just what they needed to do, because Firefight was a good mode, but it got stale. And modes like that get stale. It's their nature, and that's fine. Like, if you want to jump on and shoot some aliens, Firefight, fine. But with Spartan Ops, how they implemented a story and how they like to tell, you know, they tell the story of Master Chief, but then they also have a story that kind of arches with it. And then the story before it with Forward Unto Dawn, you can tell that they definitely care and they really want to get their story out there, and they want to make this next, because I believe it was signed for a trilogy, so there's a 5 coming out.
There's 5.
So I feel like Halo 4 was good. It was solid. Multiplayer, it's Halo multiplayer. I mean, Forge is updated. That's good. File share, all the necessities that need to be there. The one I lost my train of thought. But the one thing that kind of drove me crazy about the multiplayer was the I don't know, the credits. I still felt like I was earning experience to get better, like to get armor upgrades, but I didn't know what they were doing. That's what they did in Reach, and I understand that it allows more of a customization, but I was under the impression, and maybe I just got idiotic friends telling me idiotic things, but that, you know, the armor like would actually do stuff for you, like, oh well, the EVA gear will help you do this or something, and I feel like that would be too advanced for Halo, and that would get really unbalanced really quick. So I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. But overall, I think it was good. And I definitely feel like 343 should step up a bit more with Halo 5 and do something a little more crazy. Do something more not Bungie.
Okay. I won't knock that. I'm actually glad to continue my train of thought, I suppose. Solid, or first I want to compliment you on your idea or your word choice there. Solid is the absolute perfect description for Halo 4. It's so perfect. It's I cannot there's no word to describe how perfect that word is in describing Halo 4. It's weird, but it's an amazing way to look at it. The Spartan Ops was a brilliant idea, and what's even more brilliant about it was how it was included for free.
Yeah.
Take notes, developers, please. How it was included for free. I'm just saying that alone is basically like, oh, okay, well, I guess, I'll have plenty of reasons to buy this and play it afterwards. But I understand where a lot of people are coming from. As for the Halo 4 gameplay not being balanced, I disagree vehemently. I think it's one of the most balanced games, and I don't it's just, I guess, I'm not, I don't know how to discredit you with, because I guess it's an opinionated thing. I think it's painfully balanced. I really don't see how it's not. If there's a game that we're not going to talk about today that isn't balanced, but at least in Halo 4, if somebody gets the drop on me, I have a chance to win. I mean, that's balanced, but again, opinionated. We'll move along here and talk about Borderlands 2. Now, we talked about this several casts ago, and it was kind of a big deal during the review. But Borderlands 2 is up for a candidate for us. Jay, can you tell us why?
Ever since the first Borderlands came out, I was waiting and hoping and wishing that they would make a sequel, and they did, and they delivered. I kept track of that. I have their Twitter up on my desktop every day. Well, I did, Gearbox's, but they definitely pulled through. I mean, the gameplay, they promised bazillion guns and joy puking my face off. I don't think I threw up while playing, but it was I have two roommates, and so we all got Borderlands 2, and we all wasted hours and hours on that game because it is the World of Warcraft of shooting. Maybe not to the MMO extent, but I mean, for cooperative games.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah,
The concept.
The looting, the randomized loot chests, the graphic style is perfect for it, the cel shaded, and I mean, I couldn't imagine that game anything else. They knew they were making a fun shooter. They knew it, and they went with it. They didn't try to make it serious at all. But the weird part about that is the storyline actually is a storyline, because the first one you're just looking for a vault. The second one, you are to hate somebody, and you do, and they make you hate him, but you have fun doing it, which is kind of a very sadistic thing to say.
It's a very tough thing to do, though.
It is, and I was blown away. I really was just completely blown away by how they did it, how, the voice acting came together, the, just everything. I mean, Claptrap was there, so obviously that was good enough. But then, Handsome Jack, they made a villain that you love to hate. You legitimately hated him. And I thought that was probably one of the biggest pros about that game, besides all the fun gameplay and all the mechanics. They refined everything. It was a complete overhaul. They knew what they wanted to do, and they nailed it. And then they're releasing story-related DLC for it right now, which it isn't free, but not all good things can be. So I bought into that season pass with a song in my heart, because I know that they're going to put the time in it. And actually, supposed to be playing Mr. Torg sometime later. So it was good. The first DLC they released, Captain Scarlet and her pirate's booty, good. I mean, it wasn't as long as I'd like it to be, but good things never are. But yeah, I could go on and on about that, but I'm gonna try to stop myself now.
All right, and Matt, any Borderlands 2 comments?
So Borderlands 2 is a game of the year candidate because of how fun a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I mean, the Borderlands 1 was a lot of fun. But the biggest knack I had against it was that it. I have to rate it as a single-player game, but it's really meant to be played as multiplayer. And when you play it as multiplayer, it's a lot of fun to do so. The original Borderlands worked for this. The guns, I've had my quirks with them before. Everybody should already know that by now. But there are more guns. There are more unique ways to do it. The game has a great sense of humor in the way it goes about it. As Jay said, the cel shaded looks really nice for it. I couldn't see Borderlands going any other way. But really, I think that the way that they present the material and the humor and stuff is what really helps sell this game.
Now, I'm going to agree with you guys. The concept of co-op for Borderlands 2, Borderlands 2 made co-op fun again. It made it to where things weren't a chore and that your characters mattered, and it made waiting for my friends to all get online. I mean, it just made it fun. Then like, oh, I can't wait to get home and play Borderlands with, 3 other people. Like that concept and that feeling, it just makes co-op fun again. I think that's the easiest way to put it. Single player, single player. It's fun, but it's meant for more. It has no expansive campaign as like, a Halo or any of the old, anything like that. But not to knock the campaign of Borderlands, I just feel like Matt does that and Jay as well, it's meant to be played co-op. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine because as popular as that game is, it's really hard to not, find someone to play it co-op with. We'll go ahead and move along here. The next game on our list is Assassin's Creed 3. Now, Matt, do you want to tell us why this could be a Game of the Year candidate?
Well, I mean, Assassin's Creed has always been a popular franchise, just exploring. And I think just by being Assassin's Creed, by just being an Assassin's Creed sequel, it really had that working for it in the sense that if you followed the Assassin's Creed formula, and you'd pretty much succeed. So, I mean, they could have just done that and, cashed in on it. But they really went ahead and they made a new, I would say, environment, with the Civil War thing going on.
Right.
So,
the Revolutionary War.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, the Revolutionary, the war.
Yeah, tomato, tomato.
Time period, right?
History class is important.
Anyway. So, yeah, I mean, the game looks good. I imagine they improved on the controls, so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and now everybody, here's Jay. He's a big Assassin's Creed guy. Jay, go ahead.
It really shocked me when I first heard, a while back, that they had developed an entirely new engine. Like, anything I heard about Assassin's Creed 3 was, them saying, oh, this is our baby. We've been working on this for years and years. And I'm sitting there thinking, all right, well, it's going to be another Revelations, another Brotherhood. Like, because right before that, there were no other number sequels. It was just kind of add-ons to 2 with Ezio, and they're like, well, new hero. Well, I don't know how to feel about that. But I grabbed it opening night like any Assassin's Creed fan did, and I was blown away. It was like that. Like, they went so in-depth with it. It's amazing how far they've come from Assassin's Creed 1, where it was eavesdrop, stalk, kill. Now it's, oh, well, you have a homestead. You can do missions for that. Like, I don't want to compare these two, but I'm gonna anyway. They almost made it a Grand Theft Auto of the Revolutionary War. Only because, just saying that very lightly, and I'm sure everyone, or not everyone, a lot of people will agree, but the choices I have, like, I've been doing nothing but side missions for the past 10 hours of in-game time, and all I want to do is get my homestead up and just keep making money, because I never feel like I have enough money in that game. But for a game to sit there and just hook me on side missions, because normally there's a time where I'm like, all right, I want to beat this thing and get done with it. I've never felt that way, and I'm a history nerd to the core too, so I'm loving every minute of this. It's the controls are shifted, the environment is shifted. They've implemented the new assassin system, kind of like. You don't just find nameless people. They actually have a go in the story, and there are different ways to go about doing things now, which is really cool. But I feel like I'll never run out of things to do in that game. The graphics look amazing. The naval battles never fail to just grab my attention. And as far as multiplayer goes, I've played a bit of it. It's definitely a nice change of pace from the frantic shooters that everyone's hung up on, that I know I'm hung up on. Like, it's really nice, kind of like a hide-and-seek thing. And they implemented a storyline with the multiplayer. I think they did that back in 2. But,
right, yeah.
Yeah, like, you play as a Templar, and it's really cool to see another side of it. And the missions with Desmond actually get kind of better, a lot, I should say. You actually do things. It's really good. It's a really, really deep experience that I will throw $60 at, because there are a lot of games that they charge $60 for and should only be worth $20, and Assassin's Creed 3 is definitely a game worth your money.
All right. And now we've got 2 more games on this list. We'll wrap them up real quick before we do our game of the year. Just real quick, XCOM, Enemy Unknown. I'm going to go ahead and let Matt or Jay go ahead and talk about this one. This was his choice, so what do you say here?
This game was probably the biggest surprise for me because I did not know what I was getting into. And I heard about it. I mean, it's an old franchise from what everyone has said, and I picked it up on Black Friday just on a whim, like, oh, well, this should be fun, like turn-based strategy, sounds like a good change of pace, and I cannot put it down. It retarded the amount of hours I've wasted on this game, because 30 minutes turns into 5 hours real quick. It's the base building is a lot different than a lot of other, like, StarCraft or any sort of Civilization game, because that just provides you with better support. Like, you don't necessarily have to manufacture units as much as you have to strategize what you want to do first. And turn-based is just nice. It's a nice game to relax to when you're getting your whole squad shot up, I guess. But
right.
you start to care about the troops. You level them all up, so when if like a high-level troop you have dies, then you just... I mean, I've done it a million times. I save and quit. Or I don't save. I just quit, and then I reload it from my last checkpoint and put it down for a few hours, let the steam roll off. But it's definitely soaked up a lot of my time these past 2 weeks. If I'm not at work, I'm playing XCOM. And that's more than enough for me just to give it a nominee for this.
Okay, and then our last game of the year that is a candidate is going to be Diablo 3. Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I mean, what is there that nobody else hasn't known? This game was the sequel to the amazing Diablo 2. Pretty much just had to do what Borderlands 2 did for Borderlands 1, and they could have sold it. But they didn't. They made it better. I mean, this game looks amazing. This game plays amazing, and you feel like a badass while you play it. I mean, just killing everything, collecting all the stuff. I mean, yeah, the items and all that. I mean, it's just a Diablo fan's dream, in a sense. I won't say, it's the perfect dream, but it's a very good one.
Alright. Okay. So there you have our pool. And now what I'm going to task these guys to do is they're going to have to pick one game from all these games that we talked about. And yes, there are a lot of snubs. Real quick, games that did not get mentioned. First, the big one, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. We're sorry, but multiplayer can't save you now. Go ahead and Minecraft for the 360, the #1 selling Xbox Live Arcade game, I believe. Nowhere to be mentioned here. Dust and Elysian Tale, as well as Deadlight, both arcade games, special in their own right, just not Game of the Year. Overall, I think we can go ahead and say real quick before we announce our picks, is that this was a very weak year for gaming. And before the cast, we were talking about, before the recording, Matt, Jay, and I were talking about this, and it's just a painfully weak year. Jay was talking about he wanted to put Skyrim as his game of the year, and we all wanted to pick games from last year, and it's
didn't have a fair shot.
It's very interesting. It's just how it differs from year to year. Now, will next year be better? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and have Matt go ahead and give his game of the year.
So, as Curtis said, this was a very weak year for gaming, so my choice was a little difficult to make. Eventually I decided on Mass Effect 3, on the sense that of all the I won't say the suck this year, because a lot of these games didn't really suck. They were okay. This one was probably the only one that stood out in my mind as an elite game for this year. People knock on the ending and stuff, but I mean, if that's... I don't want to say that's the worst, because I mean, the ending is pretty significant, but... the whole story, the build-up, everything, to come to completion in a game like this, game of the year.
All right. And Jay, your game of the year is?
Borderlands 2. I gotta give it to them. They, as all the games that I talked about and liked, I feel like Borderlands 2 has a perfect balance between all. Story is great. Decision making is pretty much non-existent unless you're deciding on what guns to equip and stuff. But storyline, amazing. Multiplayer, awesome. Character development, like it's overall, it is a damn good game, and it is worth every penny. Okay,
and I'm gonna basically, I'm gonna announce mine, and then I actually have a few questions for you guys, but here we go. My game of the year is, as no doubt, as I gushed all over it earlier, Mass Effect 3. What can I say about this game that does not drill it into your head about how amazing it is? The concept of all of your decisions, of hours upon hours of work coming to a climax and an end, is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not really sure about the multiplayer. If you just want to ignore that, it was okay for what it was, and it's had an amazing post-release support, much like Borderlands. Very amazing post-release support, and much like Halo 4. But the single player alone in this game is just hours longer and outdoes everything I played this year. That is my game of the year, and feel free to send us yours. Feel free to say why we didn't, ask us why we didn't pick a game and why we snubbed Black Ops from even a nomination. I'm pretty sure you'll get some angry answers from us, but that's just where that is. Now, I have a quick question for, I believe, we'll start with Jay. As much as XCOM surprised you, just real quick, could you tell me why it actually didn't make your game of the year? Was Borderlands really that much better?
Honestly, I feel like Borderlands just had more to offer. Like, XCOM is an amazing game in the genre that it is, and I know that Borderlands is a shooter, but it can also be, there's more of a storyline. XCOM is just kind of, well, there are bad things attacking, kill them, and that's totally fine. That's what the game is. But Borderlands had a narrative, it had developments, it had like a lot more choices. It just kind of
Yeah.
it's difficult to talk about that because XCOM's choices aren't really what to pick. It's what to do first.
Right. They didn't hold as much weight.
Right, and I feel like I just didn't have enough time with XCOM yet. Like, I think I'm really close to beating it because my roommate already beat it and he kind of already spoiled it for me. But I don't know, Borderlands, it ate up a lot of my time, but if I'm by myself, I'll play XCOM. If I've got friends around, there's no question in my mind that Borderlands will not be in my 360.
Alright. And then, Matt, as, with you of having actually played Halo 4, and several other games you have played this year, you still chose Mass Effect 3 over it. Why?
Because, like I said, all these other games don't stand out as elite, truly elite games. That I can point out a fatal flaw in each of these, and I can probably even do it in Mass Effect 3, but it is the least glaring of all of them. In Mass Effect 3, I look at the ending and the multiplayer. Those are the worst parts about this game. Whereas opposed we go to Halo 4, it was it was solid, but it was not a good Halo game. There's higher expectations for this, so no. Borderlands 2, as everybody knows, I think it's just I won't say watered down, a slightly more developed Borderlands 1. Assassin's Creed 3, we have another Assassin's Creed. Getting kind of old, guys. XCOM, I can't really say I can bash this game a lot. Other than that, it just doesn't have the following it needs to. It's a really lame reason to not give it Game of the Year. However, I know such little about this that I can't make a decision. Diablo 3, the end game is not sustainable, and what am I saying? Walking Dead, too short. You can't really give an arcade game, that when stacked against Mass Effect 3. So, my second Game of the Year choice probably would be The Walking Dead, but hey, a full-fledged game is going to beat an arcade any day.
No, alright. No, I completely accept all that. I like it. Jay, real quick on your Mass Effect thing, not on your Mass Effect, on XCOM, one thing I wanted to say is, I actually picked up the demo, and I just thought it didn't take itself seriously enough. I think if it would have taken itself seriously enough, a little more seriously, and maybe had a different spin. I also wasn't a big fan of the graphics. That's what kind of drove me away from XCOM. I didn't really like the style. It almost felt too Mars Attacks.
Too cartoony.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for me.
Right, yeah. And, as for Borderlands 2, I wish I would have been able to sit down and give it an honest shot. I loved the first one until it ended my soul by glitching at the end, so grr Borderlands. But Halo 4, it's interesting that none of us chose Halo 4, and we're all in pretty much agreement. It's just solid, but it's just not great. Diablo 3, now Diablo 3 was probably my surprise of the year because I was never really a big fan of the Diablo games, and to be able to play it, it was awesome to just sit there and play. And the story and how beautiful the game actually was. And, the multiplayer was actually pretty fun. So, I think we're all in agreement. There's a lot of choices. Everyone has different opinions. So, any of you listening out there, please take the time, give us a comment, say this is your game of the year and this is why, and tell us if you agree with any of us. Feel free to disagree. We just want to hear from you. Now, this is the last show we're going to record for the year. We will be back after the first of the year with some upcoming topics, mainly about the upcoming games that are at the beginning of the year, but we'll delve into that when the time comes.
Maybe I can rant about all the...
Maybe we'll go spoiler into. Maybe we'll do some spoiler episodes. First, I just wanted to thank every single one of you for sticking with us from the beginning of the year, from the 200 views in episode 1 to the 20 and episode 2 and 3. And to the thousands we've had, and 8 through 14, 8 through now. Just thank you guys very much for sticking with us, and hopefully after the first of the year you continue to do so and continue to support us. We want to be here, and we want to hear from you. We want to be able to talk to you. We want to have a good back and forth. We want everyone to be involved. We want to be a community. We don't want to just be us three. So definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Twitter. Follow my individual Twitter. I'll have Jay's Twitter up there as well as Chris, who isn't here. Matt doesn't have Twitter yet. Won't get a Twitter. Playing hard to get.
Don't tweet.
So not much I can do for him. But again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next year.